Right now on Tech Radio, don't look at the moon.
Hi, I'm Artemis. I am a computer-generated AI voice, and you're listening to Tech Radio.
Every week online and on air with RT Radio, we bring you the very latest in tech from Ireland and across the world. You're welcome to episode 1013. Looking back on the 7 biggest stories of the week, including the eclipse, Web Summit's surprising new CEO, and can AI teach you Irish? Also, with our guest interview today, we ask if AI is going to dictate how and where we live.
From techcentral.ie, this is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
I'm Dusty. Joining me as always, our editor-in-chief, Niall Kitson. Niall, I think the top story from the land of Donald Trump is the Google search this week with the eclipse.
I think you're being slightly unfair in linking this story.
I am being hugely unfair, but when you find out what the Google search link is, most people will probably go, yeah, I get that.
No, but I would be unfair in a completely different way, right? You are linking it to a political ideology. Okay. I myself hearken to an entirely different subject, which is the Kevin Smith film Dogma, where Alan Rickman plays an angel who admonishes one of the lowly mortals in this world by saying, unless something is in a movie, you haven't a clue. Unless something is on the internet, there's a lot of people who don't have a clue. And I'm just going to say, all you crazy Gen Zers out there who thought it would be fantastically clever for your TikToks to stare at the sun and then look back and go, oh, I can see dots in front of my eyes. How amazing. Instead, possibly have irreparable damage.
Exactly. So, and we know this because reveal the top Google search of the week in the States.
Oh, God. Sore eyes. Top Google search in America this week. I mean, you have to love it. Like, I mean, I really, appreciate our brothers and sisters across the Atlantic. And their young'uns. I just think there's a wonderful optimism to them that they could actually stare at the sun and just get something cool out of it instead of blindness like the rest of us.
Listen, all of this racial profiling has really just been done in the name of entertainment, so I'll apologise for it now, because you and I both know, right? That if we could have seen the eclipse in Ireland and the day was as nice as it was in the States during the week, Ireland would have had exactly the same top search. It's a human thing. It's a human thing. It's like that is a massive, amazing thing. How can you not look at it?
Okay, so you're walking down the road, okay? You're rational, Dusty. You're a normal guy. And somebody comes up to you and says, can you see the eclipse, and points? Do you follow that person's finger?
Do you know what? You probably would. Do you see blah, 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 amazing thing over there? And you're what happens when you're in a cafe, okay, with your partner, and she goes, that fella over there, don't look.
Yeah.
All right. First thing you do is you turn around and you look.
So
sometimes you point and go, that fella over there, pointing.
I can just imagine there's like a legion of prank videos out there we haven't seen where people are walking around under the eclipse.
Probably.
Hoodwinking people.
Listen, a load of people would say that, and a load of people probably go on and say, well, if I just wear sunglasses, I'll be fine. Like, looking directly at the sun for any period of time is not a good thing. No. And it happens so rarely that it's not something that comes naturally to us. If
not to be done for fun or profit.
Exactly. Did you see on Sky News that they had a thing from Starlink, a video from one of the Starlink satellites looking down on Earth at the eclipse?
I did not.
It's on the Sky News website somewhere, but that was quite the thing, because you're seeing literally this black disc kind of traversing across the Earth, and it looks like one of those huge spots that you get on Jupiter. And it's quite freaky.
Okay.
So I definitely recommend taking a look at that. The other big news this week is Web Summit, and our CEO is back.
Yeah, Paddy Cosgrave has returned to the role of CEO of Web Summit. He was out for 6 months. as you remember, he made comments about the current conflict in the Palestinian territories. Mm-hmm. And as a result, there was a big blow up. Of course, this all happened on X. He said he would step down, and in his absence, a replacement was appointed, who has since gone on to be CEO of NPR in States, and now he is back. Now, here is an interesting query, right? Now, if you were somebody working for Web Summit, right? Mm-hmm. Nameless employee number 64, right? Okay. You're in a low-level job. Your employer has done something that is, to your mind, pretty irresponsible and has put your employability or your immediate employment at risk. Do you stay on in a job like that?
Well, now you're opening a whole can of worms.
Well, I am.
I would say, I would say number one is yes, I would say, because central to everybody is self-preservation. Uh-huh. I have a job. I have money in my bank at the end of every month. I'm staying.
Okay.
Regardless. Okay. You would want to be really, really motivated to go, I didn't like what Paddy Cosgrove said. I'm getting out of here. And you would want to be really, really, really motivated if you said, and I don't care if he stepped down as CEO, I'm still going to leave. Or even him coming back as CEO and then going, no, that's it. I'm out of here. So no, okay. I don't think you would leave.
On my end, I would have to ask a question that comes up an awful lot in the arts and music. As you know, can you separate the art from the artist? Can you separate Paddy Cosgrave's ideology from the success of Web Summit? I mean, do you take a step back and have a look at the grand picture of things? And when history comes to look at Paddy Cosgrave, folks will say he built something really amazing that has endured. Mm-hmm. Brilliant man. Or do you look at it and go, okay, he built Web Summit. It was important, but it came with an awful lot of caveats because of his personal politics, because of Web Summit's funding of the news outlet The Ditch, which in itself is quite a divisive outlet, has an awful lot of people that read it, and certainly has put fear into the hearts of some public representatives. And Web Summit, of course, has its own show, its own offshoot, I suppose, in the Middle East now. In Qatar. So do you look at his legacy and go, yes, built something brilliant that endures, might have been a difficult man to work for, but hey, so are an awful lot of visionaries. Or do you go, do you know what? He went to where the money is. He was quite happy to spend money in the Middle East and to work with regimes that would not align with his personal politics and was happy to go where the money was. So what's your take on it, Dusty? I mean, for me, it's a tough call to separate the art from the artist.
Not a tough call for me, because as I say, self-preservation is the thing. Okay. And are you aligning Paddy Cosgrave with Web Summit and saying that everything that Paddy Cosgrave says and feels and understands is exactly what Web Summit stands for, which I don't think so. You keep saying that he built something brilliant, and he did build something brilliant, all right? There's no doubt, and I work for the thing that is brilliant. Maybe the leader is an idiot, okay? That might be my opinion, but I'm still going to continue working for it because I get a wage and I'm working on something brilliant. That is the way I would look at it. So I think, to answer your question, I definitely can separate the art from the artist. Because if you're going to get all arty about it, I would say, but the art is the most important thing, darling.
Very well.
You know, that look on your face is not like, you're right, Dusty. Your look on the face is, I'm not going to talk to this monkey anymore because this
conversation is over.
That's it. It's the most married moment we've ever had, I think. On with the news of the week. We've got Forbes now, of course, the big international magazine, as many of them do, have got a 30 under 30. Obviously 30 people to watch in various industries that are under the age of 30 years old. They've got a tech list especially for the EU. So I think topping that list are the founders of 11 Labs, which it sounds like there's some Polish guys. They certainly have Polish or Eastern European names, but they're based in London. And 11 Labs is just amazing. What it does is it is a AI voice generation thing, and they will have built-in voices that you can use, or you can upload your own voice or the voice of Donald Trump, providing you tick the box that says, of course I have permission to use this voice, which you don't. And then it will do an AI version of that voice, and you get it to say anything that you want. And it's quite amazing technology. But on the Forbes 30 under 30 list, we've got a couple of Irish contenders, people who have actually made the list. Luke McKee, Patrick O'Boyle, Deepak Balagia from Kota. They run a kind of Kota is a company that manages employee health and pension schemes and that kind of thing. It's kind of like, I'm thinking of the tax benefit in kind. So yes, but they're the thing between the employer and benefit in kind, if you want to put it that way, and they operate in such a way so that it's beneficial for the company and it's beneficial for the employee, and it keeps well within the law of what is and is not allowed for benefit in kind. And it's a lot of those things, kind of can be difficult to set up, and especially if you don't know the ins and the outs, particularly if you're talking about pension plans or anything like that, or employee share option schemes and stuff like that. You really want to know your stuff. And that's what Kota do, is they help employers with that. So they're in there. There's another crowd, and I think I like this. Akara Robotics is what they're called. Keane Donovan and Robbie Scott, the two Irish guys behind it. And what they do is they automate hospital processes. And before you start thinking about robots doing operations, which I'm sure we'll have one day, their best-selling product at the moment is a disinfection robot. And what it can do is it can go into a ward and it can clean that ward and completely disinfect it 20 times faster than a human could.
Okay.
So I think that's good. And then we've got Sanjay Abram, who is with Express Health, another tech angle on that. He designs software. The software Express Health is for doctors and health professionals because they all work flexible shifts. And crazy shifts and stuff like that. And basically, he has designed a software system for this to keep track of everybody and when they're needed and when they're off and how they get paid and yada yada. Kind of a Google Calendar for docs is the way I see it. But I'm sure it's way more advanced.
Well, so it is interesting that medtech seems to be doing quite well.
It is. Why do you say that?
Well, because two of the solutions that you mentioned there are for the medical sector.
Yes, sorry, medtech. I thought you were talking about a company in particular. No, the field of medtech is doing very well. Yeah. But Ireland has always been well known for tech. Certainly when I was growing up, it was always like, the best doctors in the world are from Ireland. And essentially, and I know several people who are from the Middle East, loads of money, and they've sent their kids to Trinity and wherever else in Ireland, Royal College of Surgeons. Royal College of Surgeons do amazing business over the Middle East and elsewhere around the world. So Irish doctors, we tend to educate them very well, and then they just go away and work in Australia. Isn't that a great plan?
Like everyone, get skilled in Ireland and move away to where you will actually be paid for said skills.
There we go. What else is going on in the news? We have the godfather of AI.
Okay, well, that's the title that has been, it's not an official title, of course. This is Professor Geoffrey Hinton, ex-Google AI scientist. Indeed, he is the godfather of AI. He is one of the great minds behind AI as we know today. He was in Dublin to receive UCD's Ulysses Medal, which is the highest honour they have to convey. So that's the local angle to why we're talking about him today. He was also one of the signatories of the open letter. You remember towards the end of last year where there was like 230 people within the tech industry and academia signed on to say, can we please slow down development of AI because we don't know where it's going, and there's a chance that where it is going could be quite detrimental to humanity, and some people lumped in some fairly alarmist rhetoric with that, and some people lumped in some fairly reasonable observations about that. I mean, we could be looking at something of an Oppenheimer effect, where, yes, you know what you're building, but should you do it?
Wow.
That is the question.
Wow. What a powerful analogy.
Well, I mean, this is, granted, Oppenheimer was given a very well-defined problem to solve, a very alarming problem that I think most people would struggle with.
He could see the danger of it, and anybody. I think anybody listening to our podcast, where we all have an interest in AI and where it's going, and we can see the pluses and minuses of it, and we would be thinking, yes, can be used for good, can be used for evil, and that's the side to be careful of. But when you put it in the mind of Oppenheimer and what's happened subsequently with him, I mean, I've used this movie analogy all the time. Is AI going to go on and become Terminator?
A film that we specifically did not mention, when was it, 3 weeks ago, with our show with E. Grain Bright. Go back and listen to it, where we're talking about our favourite malevolent AIs. We put a ban on mentioning that film. I know, because it's the obvious one, but that's my point, is like, kind of Skynet was computers, and it took over. It decided, right, that's it. And actually, it's one of the things that Geoffrey Hinton said while he was in Dublin. He said he had a concern about AI, in particular, controlling weapons. Yeah. Now, you're sitting there and you're telling me, Terminator, Skynet, blah, blah, that's a whole load of stuff. And then you're telling me to listen to one of our previous podcasts about how rubbish I am. But yet last week, I referred to you to last week's podcast, dear sir, right? Where you had a story specifically about Israel using AI for targets in Gaza. So what Geoffrey Hinton is saying about AI being used to control weapons, this is not something that's happening in the future. This is happening this week. Yeah. Yeah. And can I give a pop culture reference that I had half remembered when sort of doing a little bit of reading into this? If anyone wants a satirical take on this kind of thing, and Lord knows there are loads of them out there, but have a look for 2000 AD's series called Savage, in which there is a kind of robot called Hammerstein, who repeats and recurs in ABC Warriors. And this is a robot that is designed for combat. And when he kills, his chest puffs up with pride. There you go.
Wow. Listen, on a complete side note, just to wrap this a little bit up, I found an old TV series, which I am thoroughly enjoying now, called The Orville.
Yeah.
There you go. I thought you might know it. Did you watch it?
I haven't watched it, but apparently it's the best Star Trek TV show.
It absolutely is. It's Seth MacFarlane, who is a comedian and an uber talented person. Just never mind funny and good with voices and characters. He's just massively talented. He is the James T. Kirk of this particular vessel, and it's called the Orville. And of course, what's the first thing you think of when you hear Orville?
It is the puppet.
Yes, the little green flightless puppet. Yes, Orville.
And his song.
I hate being green. Or maybe that was Kermit.
I wish I had wings that I could fly, but I can't.
Niall, you know way too much. I'm going to stop you there before you embarrass yourself. The Orville is not named after that little green puppet, because that was the first thing that I thought of as well. It's actually named after Orville Wright. Of the Wright brothers.
Well, that makes a lot more sense.
It does, doesn't it? Yes. But I love it because it's very like Star Trek, like the storyline and everything. And the whole set and everything is done up to that same standard as Star Trek, as in modern Star Trek versions were. But it's got that Seth MacFarlane tinge of humor to it. So he takes over the command of this ship, and the two guys, the actual pilots who sit at the front and fly it, their first question is it okay if we still drink soda while we're working? And he's like, as long as you keep it under the desk and you don't spill it on the instruments, that's cool. And there's all these kind of little things put into it. So yes, I do enjoy. Anyway, that was an aside, all right, from TV shows and pop culture and AI and stuff like that. Back to AI. Ireland and what's going on this week. We have a story about an Irish language app which is using AI to help people learn the language, but not in a way that we had beaten into us when we were kids.
Well, I mean, you might have had beaten into us. I was just bored into it. Gaeilgeoir.ai. It's a web app that you can go onto, and it has things like, it'll help build your vocabulary through the use of AI, like chatbots. It also has quizzes, and part of it is to improve your vocabulary and your accent and all the traditional sort of stuff, but also to help immerse yourself in the culture as well. And when I say the culture, I don't mean like this alien thing, as in I think it was Ian Banks, wasn't it? But just sort of here's the GAA, or here's Cillian Murphy doing really well. All these kind of things, and we have a really good interview with the founder this week on Tech Central that I recommend having a read of. But I mean, language learning apps are super, super handy. But I think people's appreciation of them is very pragmatic. It's just, can I do something with it? Can I order a drink? Can I, get through ordering something in a restaurant? Whatever. Very well defined. Whereas Gaeilgeoir.ai, I'll spell it Gaeilgeoir.ai for those who can't spell Gaeilgeoir, like me. It's very much about, okay, you're interested, you're a grown-up, you want to learn the language. You're not necessarily goal-oriented in that. You just want to engage with your own culture, with what it means to be Irish. And this is an artifact that's part of it. And I think that's a really healthy way to look at the Irish language. That I think, I'm not going to say we have an unhealthy attitude towards the Irish language, but I mean, it was foisted upon us with little practical benefit. So for anyone that's interested in exploring what it is to be Irish, learning the language, I think is a really good thing. I was away on holidays, actually, a couple of weeks ago, and where I went to had everything listed out in sort of English and everything replicated in the native language. And I just thought, God, that's such a great idea. What a wonderful idea for growing. And then I thought, we have that at home. We have it. We do it. It's not a thing.
Yes. Yeah.
And yet we look at it, we look at Irish like it's some sort of, alien tongue or something like that. It's just, we have a very strange relationship with our own language, but we don't have to.
I find Irish is, I don't speak it, but it's very much part of our identity, and it's something that makes us unique. I'm not saying it makes us any better, but it's just our little corner of the world, and this is our little language, and this is what we do. It kind of just, that's our little thing that makes us special, if you like. It's part of our history, part of our culture, part of where we've come from. And I think it is important to keep Irish alive in that way. And Irish culture and folklore and all of the stories we would have learned as we were growing up and stuff like that, and Cú Chulainn and all that kind of stuff. I think that's all part of, kind of what makes us a nation. And the Irish is a bit of that. And this app sounds a little bit like it's like Duolingo, which many people would use for learning, Italian or German or whatever it happens to be. And if it is anything like that, and it makes learning a little bit of Irish, just a little bit of fun, and something you can do in 10 or 15 minutes once a day or whatever, I think fair play. Gaeilgeoir AI, Irish language app, is what to have a look for on techcentral.ie if you want to find out more about it, and the story and the interview that Niall did with the guy behind it. Listen, we've got 7 stories to look back on. We're just out of time. I've got 2 more to go. So very quickly, Spotify, I mentioned last week, are rumoured to be putting their price up. I saw it on Sky News the other day that they are.
Right.
So
is that the end of your subscription?
That's the end of my subscription. I'm done. I'm out now at this stage. Absolutely. Also with Spotify this week, they're trying out AI, all right, to do AI playlists. So basically what they want to do is like kind of instead of putting in artists that you like, they want you to be able to put in a phrase. So say you want to give me an indie playlist with some folk music to give my brain a warm hug. And then it would create a whole long list of songs for you to take a listen to.
Yeah, because I think our experience is largely, play me this band, and then it'll play you bands like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Whereas this time, I think it's more like this is the kind of mood that I'm in, or this is the kind of mood that I want to create, and then it will give you the thing.
So have you mucked around with any of their AI stuff while you were
I have, actually, because I went to have a look at this, and unfortunately it's only on test at the moment in the UK and not in Ireland. I think Australia as well, but not in Ireland. But they do have their AI DJ, which has been there for a while. So I had to play around with that, all right? Because being a former DJ, I have to check these things out. Mm-hmm. Oh, God, it was appalling.
Really?
It was appalling. The voice is very good. I was like, hi, I'm your AI DJ and, I'm going to do such and such for you. So here's a couple of songs that you were listening to 6 months ago, including Elbow on a day like this. Boom. And then it goes off and it plays a couple of songs from a playlist that I would have listened to 6 months ago. That's fine. And it goes, hey, this is your Spotify AI DJ, and based on kind of stuff that you've listened to, I think you might like these songs. And then it plays 4 songs that I have never heard of and don't care and don't like at all, all right? Because any serious DJ will tell you, all right, you play what people want to hear and what they know, all right? One of the things that is surprising in all of the research we do for music radio, because we do a lot of intense research into what music people like, all right? Mm-hmm. And one of the things is that people will sit through a song that they know but they don't like longer than they'll sit through a song that they don't know at all.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So you can have, whatever. It's something that you don't like and you just go, this thing drives me nuts, but whatever, I'll put up with it. All right. But if you're playing something that you've never heard of and is completely unfamiliar, you're more likely to go, boom, change the channel.
Yeah. I think there might be something to that because I like finding new music. I really enjoy the process, but I wonder, is my patience a lot less because I know kind of what I want to hear when I go looking for new music? That's interesting.
It is an interesting one. Anyway, I wasn't. And then the other thing about the AI DJ, it was quite, and this is the thing, a lot of DJs now on the radio are bland. Okay. So they don't actually say anything. Do you know that? And they don't even try to entertain. It's all kind of like, oh, look, the sun is out today. When's the last time you had a sunny day? Send a text now.
Oh, okay.
It's like, that's not entertaining. That's asking people to, should we keep the eggs in the fridge or on the shelf? What do you do? Text me now. Here's Dua Lipa.
I would love if some kind of trivia was thrown in. It's like and did you know? That would keep me engaged.
Exactly. But that would entail the presenter having to do some work and some research to come up with a little entertaining nugget of information that would make your day better. They don't do that anymore.
They don't want to put in the effort.
Okay, don't. I think I should stop now. All right, before the DJ union gets onto me and go, "That's it, you're fired." Last story this week. Google Photos, good news and bad news. All right, you remember all this fabulous stuff that Google showed with their photo app, where you're able to unblur photos, or you can move people around, or if there's a tourist standing in the background, you can get rid of them. What else can you do? If you take a photo and it was a bit of a cloudy day, you can say, "No, make it a nice blue sunny day with blue sky and stuff." It'll do all that automatically. All of that now no longer requires a subscription. The good news.
Big win. Now it sounds like there's bad news coming.
Is that you can only do it on 10 photos per month. Catch number 1. Catch number 2, you need to do it on a Chromebook or a Pixel phone.
That's it. I'm out.
Exactly.
No.
There we go. That's the news for this week. Thank you, Niall.
Delivering Irish tech news since 2006. This is Tech Radio.
We've spoken with some of Ireland's foremost experts on smart cities before and how information collected by sensors can be used to develop better public services. But as cities get smarter, does that mean that machines are starting to dictate things like planning and housing policy? Dr Federico Cugurullo from Trinity College Dublin's School of Natural Sciences has been looking at urbanism in the age of AI, and he shared a little of the background on that project with Niall Kitson.
Federico, when looking at near future visions of the city, we're kind of presented with kind of two alternatives, one from very much from fiction and one that you're looking at. The first one is that sort of gritty cyberpunk, high-tech and low-life vision of the sprawl, this massive conurbation that is just crumbling around us. You're looking at a very different kind of situation where artificial intelligence has potentially automated all the humanity out of urban spaces, which is kind of a different sort of utopia that we kind of haven't thought of before. So tell us a little bit about your work.
Thanks. That's a great point. Indeed, there is a connection with cyberpunk culture, with cyberpunk aesthetics, but there is also a key difference, as you were just pointing out. And that's because when we think about cyberpunk cities, we immediately visualize like a dystopian urban landscape, like gritty cities, cold, violent, dirty. But nowadays, AI is being associated with a very progressive imaginary that, according to many urban developers, is an idealized future that can potentially lead cities towards a condition of sustainability. Now, my research is about looking at some of the discrepancies between such idealized visions of the city as a space, but also as an entity mediated by artificial intelligence, and what is actually happening on the ground. What the challenges are in terms of environmental sustainability, in terms of social sustainability, justice, equity, as well as the future of us as citizens, as people inhabiting cities, experiencing the city, governing the city at a time when AI is automating a lot of activities and experiences that have been quintessentially human activities for as far as we can tell and remember.
I suppose to get to the core of the problem you're looking at is that push-pull between who is actually in control here. How much control do we cede to AI and how much do we want to hang on to as people? And that is kind of that difference between the smart city, where you've got, public services that are tweaked at the edge and then fed back ultimately to a human manager, and an AI that automates things completely. So where should that balance be struck? Should we be looking at AI as being the natural endpoint of our services, or is it something that can aid in their management, but ultimately it's the human that has control?
Yeah, that's really the key problem and the key question that we need to look into very, very carefully. So that's essentially the question of autonomy, which is a relational issue, because it is down to our autonomy as citizens, as stakeholders, as city managers, but it's also down to the autonomy of artificial intelligence as a technology that is increasingly mediating urban systems and services nowadays. And I believe that autonomy is a zero-sum game, meaning that if an AI's autonomy increases, it's likely that our autonomy as citizens is going to decrease. So it's a very, very precarious balance that we're playing with the moment with cede some of our decision-making capabilities to machines, to sentient machines in the city, in the governance of our cities. And the problem is that artificial intelligence as a technology has quite a lot of potential from a cognitive perspective, the capacity to calculate, quantify. But when it comes to other aspects of governance that require ethics, that require an understanding and an appreciation of values, human values in particular, then AI is falling short because we're talking about a moral technology, a moral not in the sense that it is an evil technology, but quite the opposite. It is a technology that is not capable of appreciating ethical issues, what is right, what is wrong, what is good, what is bad. I mean, these are, quintessential human values that we've been, cultivating for centuries, and that we know, we appreciate, and we can use to govern our cities. But AI does not have that capacity. So having a moral technology, or in other words, a moral agents in the governance of our cities is incredibly dangerous, I believe.
So let's have a look at some of the touch points that inform this debate. Some of them are physical, and some of them speak to, that more ethical or cultural problems. On the very physical level, though, you have to look at the basic infrastructure. And when you're looking at urban infrastructure, you've got to think about power. At the moment, we don't have a particularly sophisticated power grid in Ireland, although there's an awful lot of work being done on it. We know that data centres are putting an awful lot of strain on the national grid, and that's something we have to innovate our way out of. Is that level of sustainability or unsustainability one of the things that will make or break AI control of cities?
Yes, absolutely. Sustainability is a key dimension of artificial intelligence that we have to examine in detail and evaluate when it comes to deciding whether or not we want to automate our cities. And as you mentioned, these are technologies that have a huge carbon footprint. They emit a lot of carbon emissions. They require a lot of energy to sustain themselves. And they also require state-of-the-art infrastructure to operate. Infrastructure that is expensive and that not many cities have right now. And so we're looking at a very, very uneven development. So we see all around the world different scenarios. We have countries such as Saudi Arabia that are building new cities with state-of-the-art infrastructure to sustain state-of-the-art artificial intelligences, and then other countries that are lagging behind. And so this is increasing the divide that already exists between developed cities, cities that are developing, rich cities, poor cities, but also within the city itself, you find a very, very fragmented type of urban development. It's already quite evident in Dublin. You find an area like the Docklands where infrastructure is more developed. You find then more developed technology, and then other areas that are way behind in terms of infrastructural and technological developments. And ultimately, this is not a matter of technological or infrastructural developments. It is a matter of justice, equity, because that means that within the city, services are unevenly distributed. And so different citizens are benefiting from technologies and services that are unevenly distributed, and a lot of people are being left out.
And that sort of speaks to another kind of touch point in the debate, is that, of course, technology moves very fast, but planning processes and the legal system move very slowly. So is there a way that we can streamline the legal system and particularly planning system to make it more able to adapt or make it more flexible in dealing with new technology?
Right. There is no silver bullet to fix that problem, which is an enormous problem, which is also connected to specific types of urban politics related to different contexts in Europe and beyond. There are different approaches. One would be to increase citizen participation, to expand the debates beyond quote-unquote experts, so extending the debate to citizens, to try and understand what citizens really want. And so that is down to developing not the technology, but the governance whereby technology gets implemented and integrated into the city. In that case, city managers and planning councils, they should have the capacity to stop, or at the very least, slow down technological developments. The moment we understand that a given city is not ready to accommodate a really fast process of technological developments, then policymakers should either stop or slow it down. Because, as you mentioned, technology is developing so fast. But the policy process, the planning process are very, very, very slow. So it's very dangerous to accommodate a technology the moment a city is not ready for that technological change that is going to lead to broader social and environmental changes. Then another potential solution that we have already seen in cities like San Francisco is when citizens do not accept specific AI technologies. And so in the case of San Francisco, it was down to the diffusion of robots, policemen, so police officers that were essentially robots, like in a sci-fi movie. And it's interesting because you talked about cyberpunk, the beginning of our conversation, and we see today in the city that what we thought was sci-fi fiction, now it's quickly becoming reality. And in San Francisco, very recently, citizens were not happy with autonomous and weaponized robots in charge of policing the city, and so they began to protest, and eventually policymakers listened to the voice of local citizens, and they stopped the development of police robots. So that's another option that I think we should definitely take into account as citizens.
One element that kind of feeds into law enforcement, but it also feeds into the idea of service design, is the problem of bias that affects AI pretty much everywhere. We're from, advanced systems to large language models to chatbots with very unfortunate vocabularies. We've seen it time and again. Where does the issue of bias come into city management, and how can we, mitigate against it? Is this again where ultimately it has to be the person on the switch, or do we work to come up with better and better solutions that will remove the need for that oversight?
Another crucial dilemma that we are rapidly facing. So yes, many artificial intelligences are biased, and we are familiar with this issue when it comes to chatbots, as you mentioned. It's almost part of everyday life, and I'm sure that many people have experienced similar dynamics on social media as well. But the same type of issue is having profound repercussions on the governance of cities, because the moment there is a biased AI in charge of aspects of governance, such as housing, for example, then you quickly see how some segments of the population are getting discriminated, in ways that are just horrible. And so our research is showing, for example, that when it comes to housing, artificial intelligences that are, in control of deciding who is gonna get a mortgage or who is, supposed to be a good tenant. So, these are technologies that are profiling people, essentially. And then they are marginalizing, discriminating people of color, for example, women as well. And so, the same types of discrimination that we see on social media, these are the same logics that are undermining urban developments, in a way that is, more and more biased, racist, and sexist as well.
It does seem to be the problem that, a pre-existing bias within a data set will only be compounded when it's applied, which of course is something that we've seen in law enforcement. When you have data sets that are trained on Caucasian males, they tend to be pretty useless when it comes to people of color. I suppose this brings us to a final question I'd like to pose. Given these differences, these sort of push-pull between the traditionally organized city and the AI-driven city, is there a common ground? Is there a point at which AI and human can align and move in the same direction together? Or will there always be that tension between the two?
We don't know for sure. And it's important to realize that there is not just one artificial intelligence on the planet. I like to talk about AIs, plural. So there are multiple AIs. There are multiple AI technologies that are entering our cities, ranging from autonomous vehicles to service robots. In China and Saudi Arabia, we already seen large-scale AIs, so-called city brains that are in charge of controlling entire cities. And so we cannot, generalize about tensions or what is good or bad for the city of the future. So it has to be a conversation between policymakers and citizens in relation to what a specific city needs. And then, depending on what a city needs, then, we can think about the extent to which AI can be the answer. And I think it's fair to say that in a few cases, AI is not going to be the answer. AI is not going to be the answer to make our cities more sustainable. We know for a fact that technology in general is energy intensive, is expensive, and so we should be relying on more traditional and low tech ways of developing our cities first, and then we can consider whether or not a city needs autonomous vehicles. But it's more likely that public transportation can already mitigate existing mobility issues in the city. AI is something that, of course, private company wants, and they need this technology because they want to sell it. And AI is a commodity that the Googles, the Teslas need to sell in order to survive, in order to sustain themselves as private companies. So for them, there is a precise economic rationale. But cities are not private companies, and we as citizens, we should not be bound to an economic rationale that is likely to produce benefits for private companies and very, very, very small group of stakeholders. But environmentally and socially speaking, that is rarely the best answer that we can come up with.
And that was Dr. Federico Cugurullo from Trinity College Dublin's School of Natural Sciences chatting with Niall Kitson.
This is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
That's it for our show this week. Do check out some of the stories online that we didn't get a chance to mention. What have we got in there, Niall?
Yeah, we've got some great stuff this week. For one, Google is trying a new tool that will generate videos using AI. So you can pop those into your presentations. We also have some news about cybersecurity investments. If you're a cybersecurity startup or working for one, apparently investment is hitting kind of historic lows. That's kind of interesting. And lastly, Microsoft is in trouble in the States over a recent Exchange Online hack that leaked thousands of emails from the US State Department.
You'll find those stories and way more online on our website at techcentral.ie. That's it for our show this week. We're back again next Friday with a brand new show online and, of course, with RTE Radio 1 Extra. Do remember to share our podcast with a friend. If they're interested in tech, tell them to look up Tech Radio Ireland on Apple, Spotify, or now also available on YouTube. Until next time, from myself, Dusty Rhodes, and from Niall Kitson, thanks for listening. Take care.
Remember, you can get the latest Irish tech news with hourly updates, daily newsletters, and more at our website, techcentral.ie. Share the knowledge and invite a friend to listen. Search Apple, Spotify, or YouTube for Tech Radio Ireland, or listen with RTE Radio 1 Extra. Tech Radio is produced by dustpod.io for techcentral.ie. From me, Artemis, live long and prosper.